folks, Dude here. Coming to you yet again. Another iteration of A Dude After Dark. This one, of course, being on June 15. So those of you who are coming into the room, checking things out, and trying out the cushions, checking out the upholstery, making sure the lights work, all that fun stuff, just making sure everything works accordingly. The kids, don't play with the window switches, okay? Leave the windows up. We're in the means of travel. Don't jack with that stuff, okay? When we get to the destination, you'll know, okay? So don't mess with that stuff. Anyway, so Beetlejuice live 5x5. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. And coming right out of the chute, the specious, arbitrary, and conflictatory, I don't even know if that's really a good word, but merely the means of bad information that is floating around about the COVID vaccine, the COVID virus, and all the means of, north to south that we've been enduring. It seems that there is some shakeup, and it is interesting how much stuff is out there that is really just, I got this one sound guy. It is pure and simple Bravo Sierra, or it could just simply say, it is merely just, not good stuff to listen to. It's really not good information, and anybody that relies upon that stuff and bases their life upon it is just listening to big time. Also run from the top on down by or our president now currently in office. Okay, looking in the room, I got Barry K. Sean. Dude, appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. Usually you've been getting me in review. You've been doing lots of work, so I appreciate you contributing to the economy of the United States and all the good stuff like that there. But there is times where you pretty much have to watch it in review because you're too busy to do those things because you actually have to earn a living. But those times where you really truly can stop in and check out the stack of stuff and make those times where you make yourself avail to hang out with me real time. I truly appreciate it, and I'd like to have you here with me live better than in review because we have that, good back and forth and interaction, good stuff like that there. So very appreciate you hanging with me tonight. So like I said, the information coming in, and I'm going to be doing that left-right thing because I got my laptop going over there and, of course, my real camera right here. So this one is actually coming in from Senator Rand Paul. It was a tweet that he put out on June 8th. Now, of those of you who don't know the straight poop about, Rand Paul versus Ron Paul. Ron Paul was the senior member of the family. Obviously, Rand Paul's dad was a state senator, I believe. And then I think he became he was state senator for, Kentucky, I think, or something. But anyway, so Rand Paul is currently a state senator as well. But also he's a doctor. He's an ophthalmologist. He's a surgical style of ophthalmologist. The guy that does Doctors Without Borders, goes down to other countries, works on people for free, and generally just a good egg. But anyway, being a doctor, he knows medicine. Hello. I mean, he's not a full-on epidemiologist like those guys who profess that they are so knowledgeable in all the stuff about, all things virus. But what he said was he posted up on June 8th, great news. The Cleveland Clinic study of 52,238 employees show that unvaccinated people who have had COVID-19, like myself, have no difference between reinfection rates than people who had COVID-19 and who took the vaccine. Interesting. So those people who literally have had the virus, either were non-symptomatic or people that actually went through it. And truthfully, it was really pretty much just enduring the flu. Okay, it wasn't my stars and garters, I'm laying on my back, basically just Las Vegas fountain stuff spraying to the ceiling. It wasn't that at all. It was kind of an annoying cough. I did have high fever. I did have very extreme night sweats, but most of it really was not that bad. I mean, I've endured a whole hell of a lot worse being sick, and of course other times being with major ailments. The time I actually had the chest worked on about a year and change ago, that was way worse than COVID. Okay, I'll take COVID over open heart surgery any day of the week. Okay, the recovery time from COVID was about a week or so. The recovery time from heart surgery was about 6 to 8 months or so. It's a little different. Anyway, so looking down in that continuance of that same tweet, Rand Rand Paul says somewhat later, the immune response to natural infection is highly likely to provide protective immunity even against SARS-CoV-2 variants. And then he said, thus, recovered COVID-19 patients are likely to better defend against the variants than persons who have not been infected but have been immunized with spike-containing vaccines only. Wow. Now, there was another article that I'd found, and hang on a second. Let me cheat this real fast because I'm literally looking at my Gab account, which is Gab, so GAB.com/dudejerky80s. And so looking over here on that one, I mean, because I actually do have a fairly long chain of events. I do actually put up a pretty good amount of entries. I don't know if they would actually call it like tweets or posts. I think it would just probably be posts. But let me scroll. There's another gentleman, Dr. Mike Yeadon. So Yeadon. And he says essentially this, quote, no variant differs from the original sequence by more than 0.3%. So in other words, all the COVID, virus variants, they're only 3/10, 300. That's what it is. It's like you got to go one step back for everything. So 0.03% different than the original COVID vaccine fighting influence. So basically the original virus that is floating around. In other words, all variants are at least 99.7% identical to the Wuhan sequence. End quote. Quote, it is a fiction and an evil one at that the variants are likely to, quote, escape immunity, end quote. So compounding the fact that people have had COVID, building up the herd immunity. Okay, now you look at the stats now, and of course, all these screaming memeites are going on and on about, well, everybody's getting their shots now. That's why the infection rate's dropping. It's like, no, it's called herd immunity. Just like when everybody was kids, and you had the neighbor that had chicken pox, you're like, oh, no, let's associate these kids so they get chicken pox early, get it off the table, contract it early, they have the immunity, they're not going to get chicken pox again. Because getting chicken pox much later in life is not good. Logan Ray, appreciate you hanging out with me tonight, dude. Good stuff like that there. And got a couple people in the room, got a people out of the room. Those of you who are out of the room, if you wish to come into the room and render comment, that's perfectly fine. If you should be observers, we don't begrudge you in the slightest. So if you wish to just hang out and observe things, I don't take it personally. No problem at all. I do have a little bit of an issue to report, though. Hopefully next week, those two big Honda boxes will be gone. They'll be bolted into the Honda that's out front, and my Honda will ride a whole heck of a lot better. I bought the car with like 40,000 miles on it. It's now like 103,000 miles on it. And case in point, it's going to be a situation where Milo's going to get smacked. Yeah, don't do that. It's a situation that pretty much the Baltimore city streets are just horrendous, and they have rendered used stuff. Excuse me 1 second here. No. Okay, thus convincing our cat not to climb into things that are not his. I can tell you for a fact, the city streets are nothing short of downright freaking destructive. And just like if you're going to put your car through any kind of stress test, just drive around Baltimore city streets. You'll see if the things last, and if they don't, just simply grenade. Let's see. Scroll. Excuse me 1 second here. Yeah, he's in one of those moods. Oh, Curious Entertainment. No, Milo doesn't have personality. He's just a butthole. Okay, and that's keeping it clean for public consumption. He's a butthole. Normally, he would never be getting into this, except I hung the flag and I put up the shoot target. And now he's like, oh, it's a new place to explore that's not hidden in public view. I now have to go back there and mess with stuff that's not mine. Yeah, that's where that one's coming from. Anyway, so scrolly. This one is going to completely deflate the leftist agenda to hang Trump with that thing about clearing out the area so he could walk across the street with his Bible and make a big show about being the religious guy who's really not religious. Okay, it's been found out that it is Bravo Sierra. Read like Barbara Streisand. Read like a large stinky pile of dookie. This thing that the leftist media has tried to profit in any way possible to simply posit the notion that Trump was the guy that actually cleared out everybody shooting rubber bullets and gas grenades and tear gas and all the rest of that fun folderol to chase out those guys who are maintaining the area around the Capitol, around the White House, and try to render the area to be, pretty much just butt bung central. Anyway, so the lip talk, I'm going to just read it from north to south. I may have had a couple cuss words in there, so I'll edit those, obviously, but posted this 5 days ago on my Gab account, but it's been up for a while. So June 9, 2021, posted up the Trump attack found to be complete and total Bravo Sierra. And I didn't say Bravo Sierra. Quote, we found that the USPP, or the U.S. Park Police, had the authority and the discretion to clear Lafayette Park, which was the area maintained by all the, the Antifa screaming memeites who basically got chased off with rubber bullets and gas grenades and tear gas and all the rest of that folderol. Anyway, and the surrounding areas on June 1. The evidence we obtained does not support a finding that the U.S. Park Police, or USPP, cleared the park to allow President to survey the damage and walk to St. John's Church. Instead, the evidence we reviewed showed that the USPP cleared the park to allow the contractor to safely install the anti-scale fencing in response to the destruction of property and injury to officers occurring on May 30 and May 31. Further, the evidence showed that the U.S. Park Police did not know about the president's potential movement until mid to late afternoon on June 1, hours after it had been developing its its operational plan, and the fencing contractor had arrived in the park. So we can draw from this that the notion that this, Trump cleared out all our guys so he could basically walk across there in Lafayette Park and go to the church and make a big show about waving the Bible because he's not real religious. It was fake. It was a false premise, and it was a half-truth at its best. North of the border, dude, appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. Those people coming in the room do get a special accreditation, and they get to be known to all as Gold Star members hanging out with me tonight. Those people who are not, and I see there's other people out there, those people who are not, I don't belittle you in the slightest, but those people who are in the room, they get special mention. What the hell? Scroll. This is huge. And I got other stuff to get into as well that's going to really bring this thing out. But the California gun ruling, where, the Ninth Circuit Court, the gentleman basically, the judge knocked down the automatic weapons ban, even though they're not automatic weapons, they're assault weapons ban. No, not even that. No, they are semi-automatic versions of a military firearm that shares most of the parts commonality except for the bang switch. Translation, they couldn't shoot full auto if you wanted them to. They shoot one round per trigger press until the firearm is empty or until you have basically stopped shooting it. A machine gun really truly works about the same way. It shoots until it's either empty or until you let go of the trigger. That said, a fully automatic firearm really is just an automated version, hence automatic, of a semi-automatic firearm. But the semi-automatic technology has literally been around for about, like 130 years, 120 years. It's not new under the sun. As a matter of fact, I think the very, very, very first semi-automatic firearm was actually either a Spanish or a Mexican firearm. I think it was called the Mondragon. Or the Mondragon. And it was this big kind of just almost looked like something that you would see in the Star Wars universe being toted around by like a Mandalorian or something. It's a really crazy looking firearm. Did it work really good? No, but it was the first semi-automatic firearm utilizing then new technology of smokeless powder. And of course, somebody really smart to go, hey, I know how to make this thing go more than bang once. So it's not new technology. I think it was like 1897 or something, or like the latter part of the 1900s that thing came out. And the technology has been around ever freaking since. So anyway, here's the thing. This is now an appeal. It's been stayed or it's been messed around in other ways, and it's being kicked around a whole bunch. Even if California gets it reasserted, the problem then is you have something called siniscerati, I think it is, and it needs to go to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court finally says, this is the law of the land. I know I had to do that, Thor hammer thing. But anyway, this is the law of the land, where they basically say, look, we're going to give the final version of this. We're going to give the final voice on this. And this goes back to the Constitution. The Constitution is really very easy to understand. Those people go, well, those are the laws that limit you, this, that, and the other thing. No, the Constitution does not limit our rights. The Constitution limits the government from intruding, stepping upon, or limiting our rights. So much so that I think it's not going to be very, very good for, Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade essentially was creating something new out of whole cloth that gave new rights. It said essentially that you may do something far and away from the original intent of the documents of the Constitution. And here's the thing. Just the way more states now have basically told the federal government to, I got an itch right here. I got a really big itch right here. Yeah. In terms of marijuana use, they've said, well, we're just not going to arrest anybody for it. And the federal government's like, yeah, but it's still an illegal drug. And the states said, you know what? We're not going to enforce it. The dirty little secret is the federal government says things to the states. The states have 90% of the enforcement. The federal government just doesn't have the manpower. I mean, the whole federal government, every employee from the guy that basically is the absolute bottom rung to the president of the United States is about 24 million people. That is not nearly enough people to enforce a population of 330 million people. If you think along the lines of just deer hunters, that's like 4 or 5 states' population, okay? There's no way in the world that the Chinese would ever even think about coming to the United States with a 2.5 million man army for the federal government to go, yeah, we're just going to get everybody, including the dog catcher, to come out here and tell you guys you can't X, Y, Z. So literally what's having happen now is those people who really are advantageous on the times, they're seeing things as they are, and these are not new cases. These lawsuits have been kicking around for freaking ever. It's just the Supreme Court has never seen a gun case in like 20 years. They saw Heller, and Heller was the cornerstone on the building now going up to finally take down those things that really, truly are just not good legislation. Case in point, you guys probably don't know about this, but when the GCA of 1934 came out, also known as the Federal Firearms Act of 1934, requiring people to have tax stamps for machine guns, silenced weapons, and short-barreled weapons, there was a bit of a misunderstanding taking place. And you guys probably don't know about this, but the guy that actually assigned out of committee the barrel length for a short-barreled firearm really didn't know what the hell he was talking about. He was actually talking about things in reverse. He was like, well, I don't want to have a limit on, rifles under, 18 inches in length and shotguns under 18 inches in length and, 16 inches for this. And it was a whole bunch of discrepancy going back and forth for these guys to really, truly understand. Now, if you want to know the easiest way to understand anything about, barrel length and firearms legality, it's very simply as this. A long barrel shotgun may be no shorter than 18 inches of barrel length. So in other words, from the very, very end of the muzzle to the breech area or where the cartridge goes in can be no shorter than 18 inches. Most companies go 18 and a half in case they need to knock off a little bit and clean it up if it gets bungered up or something. But 18 inches for a shotgun, 16 inches for any, and I do mean any barreled rifle. Read if it basically is 22, 50 caliber BMG, any place in between, semi-automatic, fully automatic. Well, I'm going to get into fully automatic, but semi-automatic, fully automatic, or basically any of those things that denote the cartridge will go to here, the barrel will go to here, and the length in between will be X. It can be, I keep bumping into something, it can be no shorter than 16 inches in its overall length, or or other things come into play. Now, in terms of pistols, a pistol could be any barrel length you want. As a matter of fact, there's actually something called a bunt line, and that literally is like an old cowboy pistol, so basically like a single action army, but it has like a 16-inch barrel on it, and it was intended to be an extremely accurate. It looks like a cartoon gun, folks. Really, I mean, it's okay. Truly, I mean, this could be said to be kind of almost looking cartoonish. Being that it's just a revolver. This is almost cartoonish. And this is 8 inches, all right? Now, you'd have to imagine it's this long, okay? And this one being a 22, yes, the firearm is loaded, so it's safe. But the barrel length would be from here to here, 16 inches of barrel length. That would be a bunt line. Now, that's completely legal. Any pistol length is completely legal for its barrel. There's no discrepancy whatsoever. There's no major controls put in place. You can have a 1/2-inch barrel. There's no limits on that thing. The only thing you're going to do with a really short pistol barrel is you're going to make a hell of a bang. So anyway, that's completely legit. Mechanism irrelevant. It could be, a revolver. It could be a pistol, as long as it's not a fully automatic pistol. The thing about it is what makes it illegal is when you either, one, put on a foregrip. If you have a pistol with a foregrip of any barrel length, that becomes known as an AOW. That is any other weapon. Or it becomes a short-barreled rifle because it is now seen as something that you're utilizing both hands for, not just on the pistol grip, but you're using like 2 points of contact to hold the thing. If you put a buttstock on it, it becomes a short-barreled rifle. If you put a buttstock on it and you happen to have a foregrip on it, that doesn't change anything. It is still a short-barreled rifle. Now, that's when you get into other stuff like, is the weapon a semi-automatic, a single action, full automatic, all these other things come into play. The mechanism that the pistol uses or the rifle uses is irrelevant. They don't care if it's semi-automatic or if it's a single shot, bolt action, pump gun, lever gun. None of that stuff even matters. They're really worried about the fact is it a automatic gun? In other words, you basically hold the trigger back and the weapon shoots until it's empty. That's what they're concerned with. Does it have a suppressor on board? Now, here's where you get into the enforcement of it from the 1934 gun enforcement thing is it a short-barreled firearm? Is it a short-barreled shotgun, which has to be under 18 inches, or a pistol grip shotgun, which then falls under different discrepancies as well? It gets really, really tweaked and complicated and all the rest of the stuff. Essentially, all you have to do is remember this. 16 inches for a rifle, 18 inches for a shotgun. Put a pistol grip on it, it changes things. Put a foregrip on it, it changes things. If you got a pistol and you put a buttstock on it, it changes things. So now I'm going to get back to where I was originally. Is this guy back in 33 or 34, whatever it was really confused, and he put down a barrel length that was just arbitrary. He said, 18 inches for barrel, 16 inches for shot. It's like gibberish. The guy actually put in there backwards of what they truly intended. And if you want to really truly get down and dirty, they weren't even trying to enforce barrel length back in the day. Yes, because there was short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns that were seen as coach guns, or they were seen as car guns, or they were seen as protection devices. You look up these things from back like turn of the century into like the 20s and 30s. Yes, they had short-barreled shotguns and rifles, and they were seen for protection purposes or just sheer portability. Now, the thing about it is the enforcement of the short-barreled area of the 1934 Gun Control Act was merely by accident out of commission. So potentially that could also be seen again in court, and you can say, look, the original intent of this thing was not to enforce all this stuff, and basically the enforcement of it is arbitrary and capricious, and it should be knocked off. So maybe the Supreme Court goes, yeah, we're looking at things right now, and truly a silenced firearm is actually kind of seen more as like, hearing protection is seen as being nice to your neighbors. It drops the noise level. It makes the weapon safe for your hearing. We could say actually it's a safety device, so we're just going to knock that off the Gun Control Act now. It'll be an over-the-counter sale. As a matter of fact, you go to France and you shoot a weapon without a suppressor on it, you're seen as being rude. Suppressed firearms in Europe are completely a different bag. It's not seen as something that's fully restricted because they want you to be quiet. So that could be the first thing knocked off. The barrel length could also be something that's just, that was really not truly intended. It came out of committee. It was a kind of a screw up. And those people who know the history of it could say, Your Honor, look, I mean, these guys were going back and forth. This congressman put it in there, and he was obviously confused. You can see the writing of it is not good. Can we have a ruling on this at this time to say, yes, this was bad jurisprudence, and we need to actually have this thing knocked out and made correct because the legislation just sucks. So literally they could knock that thing out. And then the last one they could say is, okay, well, these short barrel weapons and silence weapons are used in all kinds of crimes. They're really not. They're really not. Then when you have the fully automatic firearms, I think there's only maybe a few occasions where some guy basically had just owned a machine gun and had a situation with burglars breaking in or somebody's breaking in and, situation got bad. And the guy just that was the nearest gun he could grab. And he utilized that to fight the bad guys. I mean, I've heard tell that there's guy by the name of, I think it was Charlie Beckwith or something. I might be screwing it up. I know there's a Beckwith guy was, notable in the U.S. military. And, but anyway, what this guy was, he had a gun store and some guys tried to rob him. So he literally grabbed his M16, he grabbed a couple other firearms and went over to where these guys were trying to break into his gun store, not too far from his house, and proceeded to just combat the crap out of them. Now, the thing about it is this guy was such a good shot and he was so well controlled that he basically shot the cars to tatters, made these guys run off screaming like, chickens with his head cut off. And the one guy that actually died after gunshot was the one guy that tried to run him over the car. And he just basically aced the car a few times, did a couple collateral hits on that guy. And that guy was down the driveway and gone. I think he had like a flat tire or something, but he caught a couple rounds from the M16. They noticed that guy was down the road about 7 miles or so, just pulled off, bled out, dead. So the only guy that actually died was the guy that tried to hit the gun store owner. And everybody else was just like, we didn't expect a guy here with machine guns, and they ran off. They all got arrested later on and, of course, tried for their crimes. And the dude basically had some damage on his gun store where they were just taking the car or another car and ramming the front door and trying to get in. I think they actually did seize some items, and he actually engaged them. And, he pretty much stopped the crime before it got worse. Looking in the room here. Curious Entertainment, a little late, but the first semi-automatic firearm was the Austrian Mannlicher Model 85 from 1885. I thought it was the Mondra gun, but I'll give you credit on that one, dude. I know, there was a couple crossovers where they basically adapted a bolt gun over. The biggest limitation, of course, with any semi-automatic firearm back then was just powder. You look at the labels and the show. They were using cordite, which is really not the best gunpowder, but it's what they had at the moment. Excuse me 1 second. So the technology evolved, and obviously better gunpowder made the weapons work better. Patriot Fever 1776, appreciate you checking in, dude. Reporting from Patriot Mission Control with Little Patriot 3. Patriot Fever also said Thompsons and bars. Yes, the Thompson 1927, 1929, the Chicago typewriter, and the BAR. If you want to look up something really, really cool, there's a video on Netflix called The Highwaymen, and it depicts a couple of the major actors. You know the guys, and essentially what they do is they're talking about the engagement of the lawman's side of tracking down Bonnie and Clyde until finally they engaged Bonnie and Clyde. Now, if you guys want to see something really kind of morbid, look at the car that Bonnie and Clyde were driving, and Bonnie and Clyde had a bit of a history where, they would go into a place and just pretty much just shoot the place to tatters if things got bad. And these law guys literally Swiss cheesed this 1927 Ford or whatever it was. But they engaged Bonnie and Clyde, and they proceeded to just ventilate this thing. And, of course, ventilate them as well. From what I understand, neither of them had a chance to put hand on weapon because as soon as they drove into the beaten zone, they just got blasted, and it was insane the amount of bullet wounds. I mean, they were pretty much just they were already dead, and they just kept getting shot and jumping around. And anytime that you have a body get hit with a bullet, it moves. So they're just it's still alive, and they proceeded to just ace the crap out of them. But if you want to see something really daunting, look at the car that Bonnie and Clyde was in. That thing has not got a square inch of body panel that doesn't have a bullet hole nearby. They shredded that thing. Let's see. Curious Entertainment and early models of Browning's 50 caliber machine gun. Good times. Yes. You got to remember too, the 50 BMG. Essentially, Browning already had numerous gun designs that are being utilized. There was numerous machine gun designs that he'd put out. He just said, "Let me make a bigger machine gun." Of course, he's seeing the stuff the Germans are doing. The Europeans are coming up really insane cartridge sizes. He's like, "Yeah, we need something with a bit more reach. We need something with a bit more punch." And to his credit, the Ma Deuce, also known as the M2 machine gun, all 90 pounds of the thing, has been in constant military utilage since the 30s, the 20s, somewhere in there. It is literally a machine gun, has been utilized by the U.S. military for over 100 years. Absolutely insane technology. And it just keeps on going. There's no reason in the world why they're going to stop using the 50 because, well, it works. It throws a big-ass piece of lead. It basically always works when they need it. And the 50 BMG definitely says hi with major, exclamation points following it. Patriot Fever, all hail the M16A1, hail. I got a couple M16 derivative style weapons. I don't have any machine guns. That's my friend's stuff. They're basically the ammo whores that want to play with that stuff. I had the semis. Bonnie and Clyde, the phrase you're looking for is extreme prejudice. Indeed, Patriot Fever. Yes, they were arrested. Oh, actually, they were traffic stopped with extreme prejudice. Curious Entertainment. Bonnie and Clyde's car was a 1934 Ford Model 730 Deluxe sedan. Not anymore. I think the last time I heard that car was in a plexiglass case in a casino somewhere. And then afterwards, I think it was in a museum, or it might still be in a casino. I forget what it is, but you can literally walk around this big plexiglass box, and you see the car, and the thing is just absolutely just shredded. I cannot begin to tell you just how many hits that thing took, but I think somebody actually did climb in there and count the number of bullet holes. The number is just insane. Let me see. Scroll. I don't know if you caught about this one, but also virus related. And this one's coming out of the New York Times. And this kind of tickles me. When anytime the New York Times has to report on something about something China related, I have a little bit of Schadenfreude. Taking in the feeling of ha on somebody else's bad tidings. I really truly cannot do it credit. Unfortunately, the New York Times is annoying as hell. They want you to run ads. So I'm going to have to open it in an incognito window. So I have the ads going, which is really flippin' annoying. But anyway, they say in China's latest outbreak, hang on a second here. Let me turn this thing off. Well, anyway, I'll just run with what I know. They say the Chinese versions are getting nastier. In China's latest outbreak, doctors say the infected are getting sicker faster. 4/5 of the symptomatic cases develop fevers, more than in earlier outbreaks. The findings match trends in other countries where the Delta variant is spreading. Yeah. So the China cough is coming back to bite them. And you know what? I think I might have to cuss moderately here, but anytime a bunch of assholes throw something like this at the world's population and it comes back to bite them in the ass, I'm a fan. I really, truly am. Call it Schadenfreude, call it something snarky, but I'm kind of a fan. That's called karma coming back and just saying, dude, you messed up big time. And when you do these things, you do them in such a way that, well, it's not going to be good for you. And, well, you're going to get it badly, okay? It's just, yeah. The Chinese,
you're despicable.
Absolutely. There's nothing else you can really say about it. Yeah. Right in the bag. Curious Entertainment says that car is currently located in a casino in Prim, so Primm. So Papa Romeo India Mary. What would it be? Lima. Mike. That's what it is. Translating Trump flu. Oh, jeez. Translated. The Trump flu is getting more prevalent. We need more excuses to provide alibis for the next election. Yeah, Patriot Fever 1776. I have seen it really interesting, though, that every time you have a public outing by Joe Kaka, and I had a kind of off the cuff that one. I didn't want to say his real name because anytime you say his name, bad things happen. You just got to be honest, okay? He literally is just, yeah, because he is just, exactly. There's no other way to express it other than he's simply Kaka. But anytime he said public statements, it's getting interesting. Like there was an interview that he did, I think it was the G7 thing, and some guy's like, Mr. President, this, that, and the other thing, da-da-da-da. You see Joe's just like, kind of doing the vacant smile, like, I'm listening, but there's nobody home. And so he asked him a two-part question, and he gave the most convoluted non-answer I think I've ever heard a politician provide. He's not there, okay? There's not a lot going on in there that's home. And he's being propped up until they can say, okay, we're going to put in camel toe and camel toe will fix things. Camel toe is not popular at all. They're actually now being almost like snarky to her going, so when you're going down to the border there, camel toe. And she's like, I haven't been to Europe either. Ah. We didn't ask you about Europe, you skank. We want to know when you're going to go down and address the border issue because, oh yeah, you're the border czar. Ugh. Oh, Patriot Fever coming across the wires. Omar is being ousted from committees. Yeah, could it maybe have been something that she said that was anti-Israel? Yeah, could have maybe been like all the Jews in the Congress are like, dude, no, dude, no. Mm-mm. I think they pretty much were just looking at her going, dude, no. That was so beyond the pale that we truly cannot even express how much we were disgusted with that one because it was just bad. Okay, you were just you dick. Exactly. Okay, that's the only way you could say it. Is you basically were just. Retard alert, class. Yeah, if you're gonna be that kind of a person and be really. How do I partisan? Okay, that's about as nice as I can say it. Okay, if you're going to be extremely partisan against the Israelis or Jews in general, you probably don't want to do it in public statement in Congress. Okay, and the mere fact that she's a Somali who came here, was given aid, comfort, and she's now an elected official, and that's not good enough. I truly hope she gets hosed in the next election. Considering where she's from, she's probably just going to keep getting voted in, but she really is not the right person to be in that gig. She's way too partisan, and that's about as polite as I can put it, okay? Me being a Jew, that's about as politely as I can put it without just being overtly just, ouch, you nasty, okay, that's about as nice as I can be, okay? And I'm really holding back on that one, but she's being very partisan. This is this is good shiznit, man. I cannot begin to tell you how much this tickles me. This one's coming in from Patriot Journal, and McConnell literally just told the Democrats, forget about it. He just told them put the 2024 Supreme Court plans on ice. A Republican majority would, if it's elected, would block any Biden nominee. So essentially, the Supreme Court's enjoying a strong conservative majority. Democrats are eager to regain power. No shiznit. But McConnell just gave them some really, really bad news. I'm kind of having a little fun with that one. Rumors swirl that the next justice to step down will be Anthony Kennedy, one of the liberal members of the U.S. Supreme Court. Yeah, that's going to be a Supreme case of so if it happens when Biden is president, he will most certainly replace him with a leftist judge. McConnell, however, just gave Democrats some bad news. If Republicans regain the Senate in 2022, which is looking really positive right about now because people are really, really getting sick of this crap, and a vacancy opens up in the next presidential election years, there won't be a new justice. This is coming from The Hill. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, signaled Monday that Republicans, if they win back control of the upper chamber, wouldn't advance a Supreme Court nominee if a vacancy occurred in 2024, the year of the next presidential election. Now, I'm going to break for 1 second here. There's nothing unusual in doing that. It's just seen as if things are in flux. You don't want to influence the election. There's many other things going on, so you don't put someone in there. And actually, with 8 members, you have parity. You would still have 4 and 4. Somebody could cross lines. They could flip it over. You never know. And then for them to say it's a conservative Supreme Court, that's a stretch. The only conservative that I remember being in the Supreme Court hugely is Antonin Scalia, who's no longer with us, and of course Clarence Thomas, who I love, man. I have sincere man love for Clarence Thomas. He is just that guy. Truly, he is that guy. Quote, I think it's highly unlikely. In fact, no. I don't think either party, if it was different from the president, would confirm a Supreme Court nominee in the middle of an election, McConnell told radio host Hugh Hewitt. That's a good radio show, by the way. Hugh Hewitt is definitely a cool radio show. And when I get the opportunity, I do listen to his show. Democrats must be gnashing their teeth after hearing what McConnell just said. He revealed that the Republicans if the Republicans regain the Senate in 2022, they will not confirm a new Supreme Court justice if a vacancy opens in 2024. But should the same thing happen during the next presidential election, McConnell won't do it. It clearly echoes Mitch McConnell blocking Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland to replace Antonin Scalia back in 2016. His reasoning, although maddening to Democrats, makes sense. He explained that neither party would confirm a justice during an election year. Duh. If the president is from the other party. Major duh. It might sound like bitter partisan politics, but it still holds up. Why would Republicans support a Democrat-nominated justice if there's a chance a Republican could take the White House a few months later? You wait for the election to finish up first. If that doesn't sound quote-unquote fair, think about the crazy things Democrats have done in the last few years. Time and again, they've abused what power they wielded in Congress just to have their way. They impeached the president twice without having overwhelming evidence. They blocked needed legislation, even after saying it was needed, quote, like police reform, end quote. They refused to negotiate Republicans again and again. And they are threatening to change voting laws and pack the Supreme Court to make sure they will never lose power again. I think it's reasonable for McConnell to fight fire with fire. Don't you? Yeah. Now that article is so on point right now because it's true. And if anything, it is just simply just keeping the status quo for basically how things work. You don't put the Supreme Court in flux during a presidential election or the precursors to a presidential election. Pound sand. McConnell ain't going nowhere. You guys ain't getting it. And until you have that, ability to simply just, run over him again, that ain't happening. And remember, years and years ago, not too many years ago, but when they told Harry Reid, dude, if you get rid of the filibuster, you're going to regret it. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to listen to you Republicans. I'm going to do things the way I wish to do and blah, 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 blah. You're not going to stop me from being who I am and blah, 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 blah. And the Democrats have been pissed off ever since because they lost major control in both houses. It's really, really close. We have the mandate. We have the majority. Dude, you got 5 seats, okay? You have 5 seats. It's not like you have a majority. You have a slight winning edge. And even then, you have some guys that aren't really going to flip so easy on the senatorial side. Like Joe Manchin, he knows he's got that sort of Damocles just kind of hanging over his head because West Virginia ain't going to deal with his left-hard leanings. And they will let him know in no time at all, you are out of there. I think Milo's being annoying and Orange is looking for comfort. Come on. If I get jumped on, we all know what happens. Okay. I don't know if you guys heard about this or not, but supposedly it's another article coming from the Patriot Journal. And yeah, Illinois, whatever. But the Republicans seek heavy squad punishment after Israel remarks the GOP wants to have them censured. No more gravy. They reported last week, this is obviously the Patriot Journal again, reported last week how the quote-unquote squad was creating a rift in the unity of the House Democrats. Now, there is no rift, okay? What it is there are a bunch of very partisan Muslim Americans, shall I say, excuse me. There is no rift. These guys call themselves the squad because they think that they're a completely different, unique thing, and they also have AOC. Okay, I cannot tell you, folks, how cringeworthy it is, where I almost feel like taking an ice pick and just going every time I hear AOC in that little baby voice going, let me tell you the policy that we have going on here. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard, man. She is just, she's cringeworthy to hear talk. Obviously, I would love to see like her get in the porn when her career is over. That would just be funny. But anyway, that's of that I shall say no more. But anyway, so it looks like things are just getting worse for this group of socialists. They're more than socialists, okay? They're beyond progressive. They've gone, hi, Mr. Stalin, we're just going to go left on you. And then Marx is like, dude, where are you guys going? Oh, we're going left of you too. So they're so far left that they're almost right again, okay? They've almost gone full circle. Democrat leaders were forced to call out Ilhan Omar and her allies after she compared the United States to terrible groups. It seems like Omar and company will finally be held accountable for what they say, so Republicans are demanding that she and the squad face serious consequences. From Fox News. Okay, now, excuse me one second here. Okay. Orange is in the box, and Milo's being a little dirt brain. Anyway, quote from Fox News. As Democrats are trying to quell internal tensions over remarks Representative Ilhan Omar made last week, apparently comparing the U.S. and Israel to Hamas and the Taliban, Republicans are re-upping their push to condemn Omar and her allies over comments about Israel. Quote, Omar accused the United States of backing crimes against humanity, end quote. Notes that Ocasio-Cortez accused the government of Israel of committing, quote, human rights abuses, end quote. Says Tlaib accused the government of Israel of ethnic cleansing against Palestinians and accuses Presley of equating support of Israel to supporting oppression, violence, and apartheid. Now, this is the part that really, truly just hacks me off. If you guys know the truth about the way the Palestinians work, let me give you a few footnotes here. Number one, the Israelis gave them the Gaza. Now, if you know anything about the topography and the geography of Israel, here's where it is. Israel is a little spit of land following the water. It's a fly speck compared to the land that actually the Arabs have versus the Jews. And the Gaza is on the water side. It's a peninsula. If you took Manhattan and basically turned New York around, so you'd have the rest of New York going like this, and you'd have Manhattan Island here, that's the Gaza. The Gaza is actually a highland of higher elevation, so you can basically see as you're shooting munitions into Israel where they're going. The other side of it, too, is the Israelis being basically okay guys, built a whole bunch of facilities, buildings, all kinds of infrastructure for the Palestinians. The Palestinians don't use those areas. They keep them empty. They won't put their foot in them. They go to obviously crappy areas. They make them look like crappy areas. And then they put it on the news saying, see, look at what the Israelis do to us. These horrible Jews are making us live in these conditions. They had areas that were agro farming installed, ready to utilize. All kinds of watering facilities already installed there. All they had to do was turn on the tap, start planting stuff, and they would have farmland. What did they do? They dug the pipes up. They used the pipe to make rocket bodies that they then shot into Israel. So that's only part of it. the other part of it, too, is the financial aid that goes to the Palestinians, the Palestinian people don't get. It goes to the leaders, and the leaders then either enrich themselves or they utilize that money to further terrorist campaigns against Israel and other places. The Iranians are really bad about that too, about playing the whole shadow government thing and puppet warfare, and it's really bad juju. So the weapons that they've been shooting at Israel have actually been funded by the Iranians. They've actually been funded by the guys in the Palestinian community who are supposedly so put upon by the Israelis, and the Israelis in response. The response that the Israelis usually use is they have something they refer to as a door knocker. Like that, you saw the video, that one building, they hit it on both sides. You see both sides drop, then they hit it again, the whole building drops. Where I think it was, I forget which news agency it was, but the news agency was in the building going, wow, we never knew that the Palestinian terrorist guys were based here. Like hell, you didn't. You knew, and you shared the building with them to give these guys aid and comfort so the Israelis didn't blow it up underneath your asses while you were still in there. They made sure you were there. So anyway, what the Israelis do is they have something called a door knocker. And that's after they call and text and let everybody in the building know, okay, this time of day, we will shoot the building down. You need to get out by this time. You have 30 minutes. And they will tell them you have 30 minutes. If you don't get out of the building, that is on you. Then after 30 minutes, what they do is they send in a small munition and they hit the roof of the building. Boom. Whole building rings like a bell. The next thing that's coming to it is the big munitions. So what happens after the door knocker is I think 90 seconds after the door knocker, they hit it. And they're not just talking about like, hello, IDF here. We hit to say hello. No, they actually blow the building to crap. And so that's exactly what they did. It was a controlled munition. They blew the sides off the building. They dropped those two sides, and then they dropped the building itself, thus negating the ability of the Palestinian terrorist organizations to utilize a lot of their intelligence and infrastructure. The other thing, too, is I talked about this last week where the Israelis put up this show of force like, we're going to go charge across the border. We'll have a face-to-face. You guys will be duking it out with us. No, we'll be taking you on. And it's going to be a hell of a fight. So the Palestinians gathered all their guys and were like, yeah, man, we'll be in these underground tunnels. As soon as the Jews hit us, we'll be popping out of these tunnels. We're basically just spraying with fire. We'll rape, pillage, and burn. Those guys won't have a chance. And at that point, the Israelis are like, okay, we have all the bad guys clustered in one area. Send in the bombers. And that's literally what they did. They sank all those tunnels on top of all those guys. Now, the actual casualty numbers, the Palestinians, for some reason, really didn't post publicly. But they made it known it hurt. And that was literally all they needed to say was, it hurt. And the Israelis looked at that statement and said, yeah, how much did it hurt? We could give you a general idea, but they're not going to say it publicly. So that's the kind of gambits that the Israelis do. They fight smart and they fight well because they have to win. So anyway, scroll. House Republicans turning up the heat on Omar, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Ariana Presley. And Ayanna Presley. Every time I see that chick, she has this expression like she's got how do I put this nicely without saying something just socially unacceptable? How do I say this? She's got a problem with her is just not a happy her is just not happy. Okay, that's about as nice as I can say it. Okay, her that's the facial expression that she has. She's got a problem with okay, and that's about as nice as I can say it. She's got a stick up her butt. That's about as socially acceptable as I can say it. She looks facially just kind of, like she's got a stick up her butt. And so she's part of the group. They're calling on the House to censure the Squad for their numerous comments against the United States and our ally Israel. words mean things. When you guys say stuff like that in public house, it means stuff, okay? It's not like you're just going to go and make public statement and people are just going to go, well, it's just her opinion. No, you are a representative of the United States government in the House of the United States government. You are not standing on a corner trying to get elected, making all these kind of snarky little comments. The most recent notable comments came from Omar herself. She stated that America committed, quote, crimes against humanity, end quote. No small accusations. She also compared the U.S., a land of freedom and democracy, to oppressive groups like Hamas and Palestine. That ain't us, folks. But this is only a tip of the iceberg for the group of so-called Democrat socialists. AOC frequently slanders Israel, once claiming they committed human rights abuses. Rashida Tlaib is a Palestinian American who frequently accuses Israel of attacking Palestinian overseas. You ain't had squat happen to you. Trust me. If you want to know their biatch, if the Mossad wanted you gone, you'd be dirt napping already. Okay, they don't play games, especially with people who bring down a lot of problems upon them. They just don't play that. And Presley is a vocal opponent of supporting Israel, the only Jewish state in the world, and the Middle East's one democracy. Republicans are urging Democrats who just issued a statement criticizing the squad to follow through and censure them. The latest statement by Omar is just one of the many that reflects this group's obvious resentment against America and Israel. Unless Congress acts, who knows what kind of radical policies they'll try to push. Well, they've already tried to push them. They've already tried to install them. They've already done all kinds of snarky little behind-the-scenes things, and just they're just those. They're just those guys. I saw this really kind of cool video. Just give me 1 second here. I saw this really kind of cool video, and essentially what it is Denmark is intending to build artificial islands for power generation. Like one of them was going to be like off the northeast coast, and one was going to be down in like one of the the southeast corner. So if the thing about it is those locations of those power generation areas is they could run cables across and like plug into other places and share power with like all of Europe, and that sounds great. The only downside is they're intended to do it with wind turbines, offshore wind turbines. Now, if you guys know the science of wind turbine technology, it's not a great technology for the very simple reason is it ain't ready for prime time. But it's a good idea for all the wrong reasons. By 2050, most of Europe decided that they're going to, quote, stop using petrochemical extraction, end quote. In other words, they're going to stop basically pulling oil out of the ground, natural gas out of the ground, and utilizing it for power generation and, of course, other things. Well, how much do you want to bet that they're going to have a hell of a time convincing the rest of the planet to go, quote unquote, carbon neutral and use green energy when wind turbines are never able to generate enough power to justify and offset their manufacturing costs to the environment? You will notice that they have never said, hey, let's just use tidal currents, which for sure will run twice a day, and ocean currents, which run all the time. They want to enrich the Chinese with bad technology and utilizing rare earth minerals, of which Europe has almost none. But they want to support and enrich the Chinese Communist Party. Never mind the hit the environment will take of disposing of worn turbine blades, which do wear out, and they're fiberglass, so they don't break down in the normal means of natural decay. Normally what they do is they'll dig a hole in the ground, and that's where they'll plug these things in and put dirt over top because it's fiberglass. You've seen pieces of fiberglass been sitting around outside. It doesn't do anything. It just sits out there and gets discolored and nasty, but it does not break down. Never mind the fact that you have just a whole passel of infrastructure to keep turbines running. There's, of course, you have to keep them oiled. You have to do maintenance on them. You have to, of course, make sure that they don't overspin with like high winds. And, of course, you go out in those areas where, Denmark is and those ocean areas, you're going to have some hellacious storms where you've seen the videos of the turbine just going and just pop. Well, they're intended to fail at a certain speed. I mean, that's just a safety factor. But still, you have the situation where these things come up to speed and self-destruct or grenade or overheat and blow up, or there's a whole bunch of myriad of other stuff going on. Never mind the fact that seabirds and other birds just get splattered by these blades spinning around. They say, you go to, of course, take care of all your endangered animals and whatnot. How many endangered animals have been wiped out flying into, a wind turbine blade? Because the bird just goes, it looks like a tree. It doesn't realize the tree is moving at 30 or 40 miles an hour and will just, clip them out of the air, break a wing, and then hit the ground like crap out of a cow's ass. It's bad stuff. Curious Entertainment. Everyone who talks about wind and solar always boast about batteries, but those have huge issues with the manufacturing and the high cost for recycling. Well, part of the problem is lithium-ion batteries. Is there any recycling in place for lithium-ion batteries? Good question. I know that, you can recycle most of your over-the-counter batteries, your carbon batteries and alkalines and what have you. Those are recyclable to some degree. Lithium-ion, well, let's put this in perspective. They say you got to be really careful with smartphones and the battery packs in there, because if you poke it and you expose the lithium to air, it bursts into flame. Lithium is a very not happy metal to be exposed to. And the way that the batteries are actually made, it's like layering sheets of paper. And it's like, one type of one thing, sheet of lithium, one type of another thing, sheet of lithium, one type of another thing, sheet of lithium, all the way through the battery pack. So that's how it generates and stores its power. But if you expose it to oxygen, and you've seen the videos, the guy basically has the smartphone and just goes, he's walking around and it looks like he's got a lighter in his pocket because the thing's it's just wolfing off. But that's one of the other technologies too that you got to worry about is, of course, storage. Now, I did see this one kind of cool video. And it was obviously a very European design, but it was something the Germans came up with. And essentially what it is it is a power generation system offshore. So you have like a shipping vessel loaded with shipping containers, goes to shore using electric power. Now, this is key. It uses electric power only when it's like, out in the ocean. To get to and from, it uses another stuff, or it uses electric to get to and from the power station. And then once it hits the power station, it fuels up using hydrogen. So literally what this thing does is it drives out to the station, basically refuels. Liquefied hydrogen basically gets in the tanks and basically uses that for putting around, has big battery banks for putting around back to shore. And the way that the power system works, offshore, is it utilizes technology to generate, obviously, wind turbines or something stupid like that, but it uses that power to store the electricity by using the electricity to break down water into its constituent parts of oxygen, which just gets released, hydrogen, which gets gathered, condensed, and then made into liquid hydrogen. And they're utilizing basically free power to do this. Now, the thing about it is my problem is I wouldn't be using wind power at all. I'd be using ocean currents, which is something you can count on all the time. Ocean currents are always going, waves are always going, and of course you have the tides, which are always going. Those are things that for a fact are always going to be utilized easy, and you don't have to worry about so much about like, oh no, do we have too much water? The water's the water. You might have higher waves, you might have lower waves, but if you have the technology in place that you're gathering that energy and then condensing the hydrogen, that's not quite free power, but you're utilizing it better than simply spinning up a bunch of turbines with a whole bunch of infrastructure to keep working. That's the way I would do it. But anyway, what these boats do is they basically go offshore, tank up on hydrogen, do their trip, come back, basically using electric power to go to and from shore. And mostly they're using hydrogen for their travels to and from. So I thought it was kind of cool tech, and it has a potential, but this whole thing about the wind turbines, I mean, there's so much infrastructure around it. And I didn't even get into the fact about to make the actual generators. Okay, you're using either two technologies to make a generator. You're using the old school stuff where you're winding a whole bunch of wire and you're basically using an old style stator. That's tech that's been around for, almost 150, 160 years now. But the newer technology is you're using, the neodymium magnets, which are a rare earth mineral. Oh, where are they? A few places. Mostly it's all in China. Yeah, I think there's some down in Australia, but it's mostly in China. China is coveting and holding on to that stuff and saying, yeah, we're the only source for that stuff. You better be nice to us or you're not going to get any rare earth minerals. So if you're enriching the Chinese Communist Party and you're making yourself dependent upon the stuff that only they got, you're not doing a good thing for yourself, because you're kind of screwing yourself in the long version by saying you got something in the short version. This one is kind of cool, and this is one, I don't know if it's got any real teeth to it, but I would love to see this have happen. There's a bill now that's being intended by Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it's called the Fire Falsey Act, and it's intended to cut his salary down to a 0. So you might still have the job, dude, but you're not going to get any pay. How long are you going to last? This one I thought was kind of humorous. The intended applications of some new phrases to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. They're now thinking that perhaps they should include the phrase woke-tard and Trump derangement syndrome. There's now some people that are thinking it should be included in the next edition. Scroll. This one I thought was kind of cool. Mike Pompeo had a tweet the other day, and he's calling all unapologetic Americans to join and become a pipe hitter. Pipe hitter, known. Someone who is unapologetically American, someone who fights for our future, someone who never gives an inch, someone who's dedicated to stand against the radical left's agenda. And I just said this. I was like, I'll be a pipe hitter only if I get to bring along the carpet knife, pliers, and propane torches. I want to get medieval on them. If it was good enough for the guy in Pulp Fiction, it's good enough for me. Let's see. Scrolly. Let's see. I think I was jumping out at me. I thought I had some more stuff there. Hang on a second. There's a couple things that are, they're memes and they really don't translate well. So there's some stuff I don't bring out into my podcast because, it just really, it doesn't translate, or there's some stuff that you got to be really careful about. Let's see. Scrolly. That's what it was. There was a YouTube video that I posted up, and it's called The Illuminati. It is not PC in the slightest, okay? I could never even think about playing that thing on my podcast, obviously, because it's a YouTube video, but it's a YouTube video called Illuminati by Bondi Hipsters. So Bondi Hipsters. I cannot do it justice. These guys are a couple of Aussies, and they get it. Holy snap. It is badass. Curious Entertainment. Splitting water molecules takes a lot of energy, but a small modular nuclear reactor becomes mainstream because the hydrogen take over. Fission reactors can produce hydrogen, so energy problem solved. Well, that's part of it, man. We gotta figure out literally how helium, hydrogen, what have you. So you have that whole fission thing going on. Make the magnetic bubble, have the power generation, and there is a reactor that we have that is experimental now for fission. I forget where it is. Just give me 1 second. Unbelievably expensive, and it's going to be shared cost by, I think it was like 30 or 40 nations or something. But they're trying to come up with the way to make the thing actually duplicate the functions and way that the sun does power generation. And once we get that genie out of the bottle, and of course, unfortunately, don't need dilithium crystals or something along those lines. Of course, the antimatter conversion would be so much better than the stuff that we're using now. But the biggest problem we have, of course, is nuclear waste. Anytime that you're doing something and you're making a pile of stuff that's going to be nasty for the next 10,000 years, you got to figure out where to put it. I mean, that's like, how many millions of tons of this crap are we now going, okay, we're not bothering to re-enrich it. Let's just bury it every 3 years because that's when it wears out. Yeah, that's great. I mean, you basically have now made a pile of wood ashes that are still just burning, and anytime you go near it, they'll fry you. Curious Entertainment. Fission is heavy to light. Fusion is light to heavy. Fusion is the expensive one. Well, they're all expensive, dude. But yeah. Anytime we figure out that tech, that'd be really, really cool. Okay, I'm now seeing like cat faces poking in on the camera view here. I'm wondering what they're up to. All right, so where are we at right now? We are looking at the 10:05 time period, but I did want to actually do something fairly quick here. So what do we have another episode of? We have another episode of That's right, another episode of me doing weird things. So what are we going to be doing this time? Something healthier. Okay, I found these in my my local grocery store. They're actually really cheap, only like $1 a bag. But it is a kettle style potato chip, which is my preferred. I prefer kettle style potato chips. It's just mouthfeel, crunch, all the rest of it. Yeah, it's just better. But they are cooked in avocado oil, which is the preferred oil if you're going to be like seriously healthy. These are avocado oil sea salted. So let me give them a whirl and sniff check. Yeah, they basically smell like avocado oil and potatoes. So I commend it to you and yumminess. That's a pretty good chip. I mean, you really don't taste the oil so much. It's more like the potatoes are standing out. I stand corrected. There is a bit of the nuttiness coming in from the avocado. That still is a really good chip. I like that. And I got the other variety. And this one being the Lime Ranch. There was like 4 or 5 different varieties. I figured these were the two, right off the bat, I'd just grab these two and see how they rock. So this one, of course, being the Lime Ranch. Now, sniff check, it really doesn't smell that different. I hope it tastes different. Yeah, it's there. It's detuned, but it's there. Yeah, they're not bad, but it's literally a 1 ounce bag or 28 grams. And I think actually that's an overstatement. I think actually an ounce is less than 28. I thought it was 26 grams, but yeah, but the thing is, across the top of this thing, it's like good health, positively sustainable, non-GMO. It is certified as gluten-free. Oh, thank goodness. I wouldn't want to have any gluten in my potatoes. Stated as 150 calories per bag. Oh, how funny is this? It's like the normal ones are 160, and these things with more stuff on them is only 150. I don't know why that is. That's pretty funny, though. But, I mean, the stats are actually really good. It's like, the numbers are not horrific. The sodium is like almost nothing. Yeah, it's like the sodium is like under like 150 for both of those. It's like nothing. You can eat the whole bag and not even think about it twice. But anyway, the first one's just potatoes, avocado oil, sea salt. The second one, of course, is potatoes, avocado oil, whey salt, lime juice. But that's the one thing, though. It says it has maltodextrin, which is really not the best of things in my book. Lime juice, sugar, dextrose. I love when they do that doubling up. It's like sugar, dextrose. It's like you basically said it's got sugar in it twice. Thanks. Vinegar powder, which is more maltodextrin. White distilled vinegar, citric acid, buttermilk powder, spices, and malic acid. Quotient contains milk. That kind of stuff just cracks me up. That's be my little tasting thing right there. Coming on down 10 after 10. I'm going to break off on this one. Appreciate you guys' kind attention. And then we got many other places to go on Tuesday, but you guys decided to hang out with me. Do be sure to check me out on my Gab page. And I will definitely put that on there for your perusal. And just to keep myself honest, I'll put it on there. I appreciate your kind attention. You guys got many other places to go, and you guys decided to hang out with me. And I truly, truly appreciate your kind attentions. And well, see you guys next week. If I think I got another video in the in the stack of stuff that I'm gonna be putting out. So obviously, I'm when I get the urge, I'll make a video and I'll crank it up and I'll put it out there. And there's obviously other items I'm now playing with, like obviously new cutlery and good stuff like that there. So I do occasionally get a wild hair at my butt and I'll make another video. And of course, life intrudes, obviously, car stuff, work stuff, family stuff. It is what it is. And appreciate your kind attention. I'm going to break up this one. And like I usually say, eat good, keep your tongue ring as always. You know it, you love it. And I'll catch you guys next week. So catch you guys later. See you guys.